Alright, so I know you mentioned that you don't actually have any of these three conditions that I'm about to go through, but I know it's still really important that if I was to actually have someone, have a client that do have these conditions, I know you as my supervisor, it's really important that I understand what it is I need to do. So I guess in the first instance, one of the conditions relates to asthma. Now, I know asthma is very much about chest and it's very much about breathing and circulation, and so obviously if we have a client that has problems with their breathing, especially in a cardio workout, it's really important to make sure that they're not obviously going to be have a shortness of breath. So I guess in the first instance, if I was doing the rowing machine, I'd make sure that they keep their chest upright. The other thing I'd do is most probably get them to slow down the pace so that I can see what their breathing is like, to make sure that they're not hyperextending themselves. If I see that they're already starting to get a bit of trouble in their arms, I know that that's obviously the first place to go rather than their legs. So I'd also get them to slow down or even stop immediately if I can see that there's a bit of an issue. When it comes to other kinds of cardio training, for example, when you're on a bicycle, you'll notice that their legs will slow down. Again, you want them to keep their chest as open and upright as possible, just to make sure that with cardio work, they are actually trying to get as much air into them as possible. And again, always ask the client how they're feeling, because they'll give you their own assessment as to, I'm starting to feel a bit of a tightness in the chest, so you know that you obviously need to slow it down. I guess if they're on the stepper as well, they're holding on to the side rails, so again, you can sometimes be fooled that they're actually feeling okay, even though they're sort of slouching into that. So again, it's important that I just stand right there and make sure I keep an eye on how they're going.
And what type of intensity would you use?
I'd say in the first instance, in most it'd be about 70 to 80%. But again, if it looks like they're getting a bit lethargic or they're having a few issues with their chest, it would be dropping it down.
Perfect.
The other one there is also hypertension. So hypertension relates to strength training in particular, and I guess that's all about making sure that if they get a really big tightness, it's important to make sure that you don't over exaggerate that. So especially if they're coming off the back of like a hamstring injury, if I was to be doing like a leg press, I'd make sure that firstly the weights are balanced, or alternatively start on a much lower weight and just see how they're going with the weight that's being presented to them in the leg press, and maybe just do 5 repetitions, and then if I need to, increase the weight and see if they are okay with 5 repetitions. And what is best is just to gauge how much weight they're actually okay with having as a resistance, and then when you find their comfortable weight, doing more repetitions, and over that period of time you can then obviously increase the weight but drop the reps if that's what they're aiming for, depending on what the client's goals are. The last thing is to do with arthritis. Now, arthritis is very much about joints, and it's also to do about the swelling in the joints and the synovial fluid. So essentially at the end of the day, if someone's got a problem with their joints, especially in resistance training, you don't want their joints grinding and things like that. So for example, if they've got problems with their knees, you most probably wouldn't get them doing step ups, or you most probably would get them doing squats, but maybe not having too much weight bearing on it, because you need to make sure that the pressure in their joints isn't excessive. The same sort of thing, for example, if you're trying to work their chest, you'd most probably get them to do lying down on their back and doing chest presses, as opposed to putting a lot of weight on their entire body and getting them to do push-ups, because again, for example, you've got more weight bearing than necessary and you're still working the part of the body that you need to. But in a chest press, you're not carrying your entire body, whereas in a push-up you're carrying your entire body's weight. So I guess they're just 3 different conditions that are often experienced as personal trainers, and there's some of the modifications that I could use in order to ensure that they're looked after.
Perfect.
Thank you.